You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, thechrisvossshow.com. When the Iron Lady sings, that makes it official. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for joining the Chris Voss Show. The family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as your mother-in-law. So that makes the best family, this time of year. Right now, we're broadcasting the show. If you're watching this like 10 years from now, like people do on YouTube, it is January 1st, 2024. I got to get used to saying that. 2024. And so if you're hearing the show in most recent times, or maybe you're hearing it in the future, whatever year you're in, just fill in the blank, but Happy New Year. So there you go, from the Chris Voss Show. We love you, and I hope all of you didn't drink too much and you're getting off to the New Year's, right? The great thing about the new year is we've got a lot of great plans for the show. We got a great ideas and new things that we're going to bring into the show. So watch for that. You're going to see more Hollywood stuff on the show as well, on top of everything else that we do. Might see some Hollywood stars there, eh? Also, the great thing about the show is we enlighten you with so many different ways to improve your business, your quality, all that good stuff, how to improve yourself, how to achieve what you want to take and do. So make sure you share the show with your family, friends, and relatives so that you can share the wealth and have everybody get on their New Year's resolutions or goals or whatever you're doing. Going on 15 years, we've been bringing you the CEOs, the billionaires, the White House presidential advisors, the astronauts, the U.S. ambassadors, the Pulitzer Prize winners, all of the most brilliant minds and people who start their companies and teach you how to do it as well, or give you tips on how they do it and ideas. So there you go. We're covering CES 2024. This is a big consumer electronics show, 2024. And all week long this week and probably into next, we'll be interviewing the CEOs and different people who will be attending the show. Lots of folks down in Eureka Park, as we like to call it. Gary Shapiro, the president and CEO, my good friend, who he makes an annual appearance on the show the last 4 or 5 years, will be on this week sometime, I believe on Wednesday or Thursday. So be sure to watch for that as well. It's always good to have him on to tell us what's going on. Today, we have Stefan, her son, on the show. We're going to be talking about his company called Skyted. And we interviewed him last year, and he's back again for a second round. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hey, perfect. Thank you for having me.
There you go. And did I get your name correctly?
Yeah, Stefan's perfect.
Stefan or Stefan?
Stefan, it's pretty much European, so it's pretty much as you want it. Steve,
so I'll cut this for the edit. Stefan Herson. So Stefan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
There you go. That'll end up on the part of this will end up in edit. So give us your .com. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
People can find us on Skyted.io.
Skyted.io. So give us a 30,000 overview of what Skyted.io is and what you guys do there.
Yeah, we're creating a wonderful new product, which is just here. Just show it very quickly for the people we can see on the screen. We just allow any people who are traveling, for example, to make a phone calls or conf call like Teams or Zoom in a train, in an aircraft, or everywhere where you are in a high density and you cannot talk because your neighbors either is going to be bothered, either is going to listen to whatever you say. So we developed this product with Airbus Dev in Europe with the European Space Agency because we want to reintroduce calls on board of the aircraft. Imagine you're flying from East Coast to West Coast during the day. You cannot talk today on the phone by the FCC simply because they don't want you to bother the whole cabin with your conversation. Yeah. So they have to kill the mic of people who can make calls. But calls are here. I mean, satellite connectivity with Starlink and OneWeb is here for many years. So we're just creating this mask, which is going to absorb the sound of your voice, and you're going to be able to talk without sharing the whole conversation with the next door, the guy sitting next door, or to eventually some competitors which might be just on the back seat, and listening to everything you're going to say. That's
I
pretty much
love
what I developed.
I love the idea and concept because, yeah, I mean, sometimes you need to make a call on a plane. Sometimes, as soon as the plane lands, I'm turning on the phone and starting to get the hits, and sometimes you're like, oh crap, something's on fire. I gotta put it in the fire. Let me call him real quick, but yeah, you don't want to have that whole conversation. You're standing in line, or there's lots of different places where.
You're on the shuttle from, for example, Hertz, and there is a guy crying next to you.
Yeah.
We're going to work on the feature of the product, but I'm an ex VP cabin of Airbus. I was in Singapore for 5 years, and one airline told me there's no calls on board unless you find a way that 300 people can make a call without punching each other on the face. That's pretty much what happened. The airlines, and they said we are creating havoc. So we're kind of, I would say, a safe line here to make sure everybody is going to be, you make the call and nobody's going to be bothered with you.
There you go. And how long have you been developing this?
Well, I've been, knocking at every doors on how you can make a call silence, how you can really stop 110 dB, which is pretty much the vent going out of the mouse, which is very, very loud.
Wow.
And to stop it. So I've been talking to the guy who know how to stop big noises, the engines, jet engines suppliers. They are, when you look at the engines on the inlet coil, you have a very teeny holes which going to absorb the sound when the sound is going to be draft from when the air is going to go through the jet engines, and you have the weight to really stop to redampen the sound of the new generation of jet engines. So we incorporate that into the mask, so you can see there is teeny holes inside, and these teeny holes will stop the sound when you speak. So that's the way it works. It's a very passive treatment, and that's going to go on the whole frequency of the voice for 100 hertz to 6 or 7,000 hertz. So that's was very high tech. So we work with the Onera, which is the equivalent of the NASA in France, working with Airbus too, and we incorporate that into a mask. So this is pretty much a very high tech product.
That is awesome. So if I'm sitting next to someone on the plane and I'm like making a call and I'm like, the person next to me smells and they're an idiot, are they going to be able to hear me?
Well, you won't be. Let's make it very clear. We stop -20 to -40 dB. So if you yell at it, yes, he's going to hear it.
I'll just say it really quietly.
But if you say very quietly and you just want to make a call, you don't want to sing like Pavarotti, to the opera tenors, that's not going to happen. Yeah. But the idea that's in the patent we just filed a few months ago, it's going to stop pretty much the sound. The sound is going to stop at your shoulder. So if you are in a Yankee class, pretty much it won't go over a couple of inches from your mouth. That's pretty much the brilliance of this product. That's you won't be able to stop saying anything, but your neighbors is not going to be to hear if you're speaking or not. So in terms of perceptibility, it is very, very, very quiet.
Hey, I have an idea. Because I've like you, I've flown a lot, and crying babies. Maybe we could put these on the crying babies. And
that's a request for parents, But for gaming, we know that gamers have a big problem. That's so our first market was gamers because they came to me and kids are yelling and mothers come 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and we know from the aerospace study from pilots, because we are like when we say backed by Airbus and we work with our space ecosystem, that when you have an alarm, when somebody comes to you and you are playing, for example, Call of Duty, and your eyes is going to catch pretty much what's saying, and you will not hear anything. You are pretty much deaf to your mother saying you have to speak on the low voice. So that's why you have to get something very vivid on that. And the mother will come with the app saying, she will be able to come into your game and stop the sound, to ask you to stop for 2 minutes and calm down and release that. We call that voice awareness. And that's something we are going to launch for parents. So we've been talking to big franchise. They came to us and we came to think this is not good to leave kids yelling and crazy, because we find something on the cockpit for pilots. If you start to really raise up your voice, the problem is that you're going to start to be very vocal, and you start to be very aggressive. Aggressive come with the level of your voice. That's why pilot are used to speak very lightly and very politely when they have an emergency, to make sure stress is not going to be passed over to your next colleagues. So same thing, we're going to have a way that we're going to monitor your voice, and not making sure not going to be able to yell. You'll be able to speak to your friends, not waking up your babies or whoever is next to you in the room. And at the end, we're going to give you a ping if you speak too loud. So we give you something, a kind of measure. That's yeah, the apps is doing a wonderful thing. We are going to work with AI to monitor how your voice is still going to go out of the mask, because we do -20 to -40 dB. But if you start to yell at 110, something is going to go in the room. And in this case, you will be able to monitor the sound bubble you're creating and making sure it's not going to impact some people around you, and you can calculate that and do that with your finger. So that's the product is not only the mask, it's pretty much the app to making sure that nobody will be able to sitting around you will be I will say impacted by your voice.
There you go. So if you ignore the pings after a while, is there a voice that comes on like Alexa and says, "Shut the fuck up"?
Yeah, you will have a ping, like, cockpit pings, we're pilots, so you're gonna hear something like saying it's way too loud.
Yeah.
It's better than your wife saying you wake up the kids. I'm very, very nice. Or the next seat neighbor said, I'm sorry, you have to stop the call now. And that's why you can do that on Amtrak. We have been studying the bright light from Orlando to Miami. We've been to all the Amtrak network. I mean, you have 4Gs. I mean, today the call is already here. You can make a wonderful Teams or Zoom on sitting on the train from New York to Boston or Washington. It's a no-brainer. The only problem is what's going to be the reaction of your next seat neighbor, and that's today something we have been able to solve.
Yeah, this would be big in gaming. I do a lot of gaming, not as much as I used to anymore, but I do a lot of gaming, and we'll have somebody come on comms and like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" Hey, and we're like, "Yeah, the wife's sitting here asleep, and the kids are asleep, and I can't talk." So
yeah, you can talk. You can be two in the room, so there is no double click or double voice. You can play confidentiality in the same room with people against you and talk to your teams. It's really come from. Let's if you look at Call of Duty, this is pretty much what the Army has come, because the Army came straight to us after CES 2023.
Oh, really?
They came and we developed something I just want to show you one time. This is a major mask. So that's a mask for the Army. That's something which can be bulky, and we're working on it. Yeah. So look at the special force storming into a building, and the door is not where it's supposed to be. Then they're going to be able to talk and said, well, Team Bravo goes left, whatever. I mean, they're going to be able to reshuffle the whole situation without being able to talk. And it's still going to be very silent in the room. That's why we work on upgrade the mask with new AI tasks to be able completely silent. We call that 0 dB emission. That means you have no emission of sound, and you're still going to be able to communicate.
That could probably be really good for operational awareness, because then the enemy that might be hiding out in the house, room, wherever, can't hear your commands, can't hear what you're up to, and you have more of an element of surprise in essence. In fact, in some cases, I guess you would have a really great element of surprise. I could see SWAT teams using that too.
Yeah. That's really came as a natural need for them to storm into a building completely silently.
Completely silent, yeah.
So we have transport, we have gamers, we have also business people. We're handling some very important information like bankers, brokers, and so on. And we are developing a product which is just for them. And that's going to be on our Kickstarter offer next week. We're going to show that at CES. It's going to be fully encrypted. That means we take your voice from here, the microphone transform, and we'll encrypt it. So it's going to be fully encrypted directly from your mouse. And after we erase the sounds going out. So that means nobody will be able to pry into your conversation.
Now, I noticed there's an office desk on your board back there, your background. I know in like Silicon Valley, they have these places where it's all open spaces. and it's insane the amount of noise that's in there with all those people that have no walls and usually no soundproofing either. To the point that they actually have these things, pods people bring in that are like, they look like phone booths. Have you seen those? Probably at
Yeah,
CES.
yeah, it costs five grand.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just
that's
huge.
completely
Yeah.
insane. And every employee wants one, so you finish. You're gonna wind up by having 5,000 employee, 5,000 booths. This is not
You're
working.
back to offices at that point.
You know, we just talk about we're the same generation. We know about phone booths. You know, there is one guy making a call and 10 guys waiting. So that's not gonna happen.
Superman's somewhere on the line.
Yeah,
he's trying to change.
that's clear.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. The idea that you can wear your mask, you start your call, and you can talk to your doctors, your bankers, without sharing your life with your next neighbors. I mean, that's the same thing.
That's true. So you could be in an open office setting, and you'd be able to use this mask for that.
Yeah, at the time I was in 2018. So I was at Airbus. I was VP for cabin interiors in Asia, and we had this idea of putting a mask to people because we wanted to be able at the time to open calls on board, and it couldn't happen. But COVID make it happen. Why? Because three things. We've been in our house for months at 30 dB. So that means we are used to have very quiet place to work, and that we are used to have very high proficiency. Your brain is really picking up strong in very quiet environments. Two, we now I think in the US, 92 million people are doing hybrid work. You are in the office, you're on the train, you are in the metro, taxi, whatever, in a restaurant. You have to take calls on the go. And the number of calls went from 4 to 30. So every week you have 30 calls, and nobody's going to bother where you are. So you have to take it wherever you are. So that's why we developed this product first with the app, but the voice is not going to go out, but the noise is not going to go in. So that means up to 100 dB in a very loud bar, you can still make a call. People, you might hear there is background music, but your voice is going to be crystal clear. So,
you know, I didn't really think about that, but yeah, you're right. More people working remotely, and they're doing stuff like going into like WeWork, shared office spaces for local stuff. I know, I've worked out of Starbucks before. I'll just go in there to take my laptop in just to get out of the house. Sometimes when I go out to dinner, I'll take my laptop with me, so I can kind of do work, but kind of relax and have something to eat. Just get out of the studio. You start getting cabin fever after a while around here, and but yeah, I can't really make calls when I'm in those places, or when I'm in a loud, noisy restaurant or something like that. But sometimes you got to make a call, and there's nothing more than a pain in the butt than having to go outside. But yeah, people, I know that Starbucks has a lot of people that are usually in there working. A lot of the WeWork spaces are open spaces. You can like I guess reserve a private conference room, but then it costs extra, and you got to make sure you have the time. But I can see how this could be facilitated in so many ways. There's always some idiot wherever I go, especially if you go like the airport, or there's a lot of idiots everywhere I go. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Hybrid work is everywhere. I mean, from the aircraft, from a lounge, sometimes you wish that you could put yourself in some bubble.
There's always some guy talking at, whatever. It's like, do you need everybody on the planet to hear you, buddy, on the call there?
Yeah, and you know what? It's also people can hear what you say. That's really something which can be a real issue, because when you make a phone calls, unless you talk about family parties, whatever, but the rest is this is under your responsibility to non-share any information outside of your company. And if somebody came and pry into your conversation, this is pretty much something which might come to end your career. So that's really something putting lots of pressure on people to make sure that you have to make the deal. Customer is calling you right now, and you have to make sure that nobody's gonna pry into your conversation. So that's something we really take care of.
How soon do you see you coming to? Do you guys have a product that is market now?
Yeah, we're going to launch it on Kickstarter, because that's the best way to go after to the big B2C market. So we start, AirPods was launched in 2013 on Kickstarter. So that's why we're following the same pattern. The hearable business is something which is quite interesting. The name is called Skyted, and it's on Kickstarter next week. We're going to start it live from CES, and we are going to run the show to run the the campaign for 30 days, and after we're going to go on B2B. Our idea is to work with big conf call suppliers, because we open the mobility market. Imagine Teams, Zoom, Google Meet today. They have no market on trains. Tomorrow we can be on aircraft, on trains, everywhere. People will need to have transportation, and we'll be able to have a silent call. So for them, it's a brand new market. So we are eager to make a special product for them, like hardware as a service. That's something we work on.
And I know COVID's still running around. I just had like a friend, their whole family got it. And I was like, wow, okay. So I guess technically it might help a little bit at preventing COVID and spreading of, I think we were talking before the show or during the show that I kept getting sick on plane flights when I would fly at events like CES, and we used to call it the CES SARS, where you go to CES, South by, NAB, all these shows that we used to tour around to before COVID, and everybody would be in the convention hall space, passing around whatever sort of sicknesses we had from China to Europe, and then we'd all get on a plane together, and it was just like a tube of just the worst. And everyone would get home and they'd be sick. We called it the CES SARS. I don't think Gary.
Yeah, well, it's maybe, but we don't make any claims on health treatment.
Okay,
I mean,
right.
that's we could have a version in the future, but that's a completely different story with FDA agreements and so on.
Yeah.
So you have to make claims, you have to withstand them. Sound is sound. We have the sound acoustic, and we work on that. At the first, we wanted to make a COVID mask, to be pretty clear about it. But now the need for COVID is not so developed so far. So we're not going to do it for a period of time.
There you go. Well, until it comes to market, I'll continue what I use to keep people shut up: duct tape.
Well, you can do that. It's clearly something that's well, it's pretty much how much pound you put to the guy next to you, and if you have I don't know 300 pounds, usually people will listen. That you can make their call. I mean, this is not a big deal. Now it's very interesting. We call that a science which called psychoacoustic, which is psychology of the sound, how a sound might really impact some people around you. That's pretty much, the science behind it is when somebody talk on the phone, you are trying to understand what's going to be the other part of the discussion. Because when two people talk on a train, you don't care because you have the whole discussion, so it's quite light. The problem is that when you pry into a conversation, you just get the people in front of you, and you try to imagine what is the conversation on the phone. And that's really what start to really stop your CPU, because that's taking a lot of energy to get into this conversation and try to still continue to have it. This is what you get nuts. That's why people get nuts when you talk on the phone on trains or on metro compared to two people talking each other. That's why there is science behind it.
Yeah, you start to lose your mind too, because you're like listening to the inane conversation they're having, going, that's really not that interesting, buddy. Or you got some guy on the phone talking about how did my syphilis test turn out? We've all been there. So there you go. Can you rattle off the link to the Kickstarter off the top of your head? It'll be on the Chris Voss show for people that want.
Yeah, it's going to be a Skyted on Kickstarter.
Okay, so go to skyted.io.
Yes, we created Skyted. The name is very simple: is how to make a TED Talk in the sky. That's why we thought I could be able to do this speech in the airplanes without having 26 people around me start. Can you stop it now?
That's great. We're gonna have people start calling in for planes on the podcast. That'll work out.
Yeah,
great.
You're gonna have that. Hey, connectivity is here. I mean, we have LEO satellites. We have now creating a wonderful product for hybrid works. Gamers is coming on that. Office is going to become next. Armies. That's another tough cookie. So we want to be the world leader in silent calls, which is a complete new market for Teams, Google, and for Zoom. So that's definitively something we are really cracking up the nuts, and we are really working on the AI too. We have lots of solutions. So you're going to see us every year at CES, definitely with brand new product.
I could see so many applications for this. So I think you've hit upon a grand idea, and I mean, definitely just everything for being quiet, and with remote working isn't going away. People aren't going back to offices, at least not here in America, so there's all sorts of ways we remote work. People go out to do stuff, whether it's an office or, even if you're just, a busy, noisy, small office can really be annoying. I've had a few of those.
Yeah, it can be. One more time, it's not going to stop completely your voice, so people cannot scream. It's not made for singers, for opera singers.
Mhm.
Ask me about it. I say no. But we have a medical sections. When we work for kids, we cannot, write correctly, so they're
Mhm.
going to be able to stay in the room and dictate the class, the class books and so on, and take their own notes verbally and do the test with their friends, so they are not going to be severed. That we work
Mhm.
on CSR, and that we're helping some doctors to help kids to go back on school, because they will be able to talk to somebody without impacting the pupils next to them. That's something which is definitively coming. We have so many
Mhm.
applications about silent calls. How I can talk to you right now, but I'm not bothering anybody around,
Yeah.
and that's going to create new services. We work now with trains, airlines, and of course we are backed by Airbus Dev. But it's going to be a major change in the way we communicate, in the way we get information, and that's going to protect peoples, and that's really quiet. Also, the atmosphere in trains or everywhere when you heard somebody yelling on the phone,
Yeah.
that's a real issue.
In Europe, you guys are all trains. Same thing with China. So yeah, that's probably big. So you're going to be at Eureka Park down in the
Yep.
basement there of the Venetian at CES Show 2024. Gotta love it. I like saying that for some reason. I don't know why. I missed CES 2020 with COVID, or no, we did CES 2020 went off, and then 21 was the year that didn't go off, and then we helped make sure it went off in 2022, and then we did 2023. And here we are. We've come full circle. So it's so good. And the ironic thing is I probably won't be there this year. We're doing everything virtually for our interviews. So it was wonderful to meet you again and hang out with you, man. And I'm glad this is really rocking. As an entrepreneur, seeing you guys succeed and seeing you guys develop these products is definitely wonderful. Give us your final pitch out to people for the Kickstarter and where to go
Sure.
on the .io.
We're going to start on January the 8th, a complete new campaign for this wonderful product here. So it's going to come in different colors and different options, from the wire simple versions to the most complicated encrypted. So that's allow anybody to make a silent, secure, and confidential calls everywhere. Campaign will run for 30 days. Kickstarter, and we really take the wave of CES to launch it on. Usually you don't do that, but we really believe we have such a tremendous request from the industry last year that we want to launch it at CES. This is the best place to be, and we are going to deliver in end of the summer 2024, and we're going to be able to work on trains. One more time, this is very for the hybrid work for trains, aircraft in Europe. It's working, or in Asia, and it's going to work for everywhere for the hybrid work when you need to travel. So same thing for gamers. We have a product which is as good for gamers and travelers. So if you are 40 years old and you still like to games, or 50 years old, you're going to be able to use it. That's something we have developed. And one more time, we're going to come with more product every year. We want to be the world leaders in silent calls, and we go for a very great show. So if you come to CES, come and see us at the Eureka Park. You will see we're going to have a big OLED part background. So it's going to be great.
There you go. Thanks again, Stefan, for coming to the show. We really appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
There you go. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, the big LinkedIn newsletter, and the 130,000 LinkedIn group over there as well. Chris Voss YouTube and Chris Voss Tickety Talkety, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok. Watch for our continuing coverage of CES 2024. It's 2024. Did I do that right? 2024, right? Yeah. Why am I thinking there's a 1 in there? Man, I don't know.
2024.
I'm like 100 years off. See? It's the first one. Give me a break, people. I'm just starting out. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys.